Well, sitting here at sundown, thinking about it is very nostalgic for me because it's hard to believe it's 28 years since we started this group. Even at the very beginning, we talked a lot right away about not wanting it to just be a one-off. All of four of us were quite busy at that time and doing a lot of session work and some touring and whatever. I decided to go to Los Angeles to record a new album, and at that time most of my records, all of my records, were done in the New York area. So it was a new idea for me to record in LA. And the person that I knew the best was Harvey Mason, because I had brought him out to New York for many of my projects, the best of my projects. And the Mr. Magic album that I did with Grover Washington Jr., my album 3 for CTI that I recorded Westchester Lady, that Harvey made the drums so magical that I kind of got a career out of it because of Harvey's grooves. And so much of that, he and I had become really good friends, and I felt comfortable working in LA with him. And at the same time, I had guested on a couple of tracks for Lee Ritenour on one of his projects. So this album project of mine, which ended up being called Grand Piano Canyon, was my way of calling in my chits and getting Lee Ritenour to play on it. And so I decided to use Harvey on drums, and I wanted a small rhythm section vibe, and I didn't know who to use on bass. So I called Harvey, and I asked him who he thought the right bass player for this session would be, and Harvey almost didn't hesitate and said Nathan East should be the guy. So just to check, separately, I called Lee Ritenour and asked him the same question without telling him what Harvey's answer had been, and Lee came back same name. Nathan East was the right guy, according to both of them. Immediately, when we were in the studio the first day, I began to understand why they liked him so much and what made it special to work with him. He had almost the opposite kind of attitude and deportment from the musicians in New York that I was used to. In New York, there was a kind of a hard, tough, don't give away any emotion, don't let anybody know what you're thinking, take care of your part. And in many ways, we kind of call that like a New York attitude. And people coming in from the outside had a hard time, a lot of the times, cutting through to get on the inside of it. And you kind of had to prove yourself and go through the rites of passage. But in LA, at least with what I was experiencing with Nathan, here was this guy that was friendly, came right over to me if I played something that he liked and complimented me and was making me feel at home and had this real friendly personality, and threw me off at first. I thought, well, wait a minute, I'm not used to having musicians say stuff like that. But it was comfortable, and we settled into doing these sessions, and the four of us were feeling something chemistry-wise that was just different from a normal recording session. And I may have been the first one to bring up the question as to whether any of the other three guys had ever been members of a group. And I can't remember which one of them mentioned some part-time group that they had been involved with, but nothing on a real dedicated basis. But I think all four of us had an intrigue about it. What's the difference between making your own solo project with your own name and forming a group and trying to find the name for the group and seeing what would happen? And so it sort of happened very quickly that we were intrigued, and we thought, well, hey, maybe we could do this. And at that time, I was working also as an A&R guy for Warner Brothers Records in the jazz department there. And I was able to go to one of the creative meetings and bring up this topic. Would Warner sponsor the idea of us starting a new group? And I told them who the people were, and very sympathetic reaction, and it was fairly immediate that they said, yes, do it. And so they gave us a budget, and Within a few months, we were embarking on this new four-play project. We kind of dreamed about, could we make music that would be enough uniquely us that when people listen to it, that they would say, that's you guys. It's fantastic to realize that we did achieve that. We did achieve a sound that, and even though we've had three different guitar players, the essence or the entity of four-play has become something recognizable and something sought after by fans that still want us to do more.